It's been a while since I've spoken about influencer boxing and the little love triangle or hate triangle of Jake Paul, Conor McGregor and KSI. Now might be a good time because apparently Jake Paul is going to fight Canelo Álvarez this year. Do you know what? I've got to be honest. I heard about these negotiations months ago, right? Months and months ago. And I just thought, I'm not going to say anything online because if I say this, it sounds so ridiculous that if it doesn't come off, I'll never live it down. But yeah, it does have some weight to it by the sounds of it, because you know what boxing's like. If there's money in it, it can happen. And I think the first thing I have to say is credit to Jake Paul. If he pulls this off, fucking hell. Like, I watched this kid. I interviewed him before his first fight. Do you know what I mean? I commentated his first fight against Deji. At no point did I think, you're going to fight one of the greatest fighters of all time. And technically he did that against Mike Tyson, but that was Mike Tyson, who was very much not far from the grave. You know what I mean? This is Canelo Álvarez, who is a current world champion, a multiple weight class world champion, an undisputed world champion. This is insane. And Jake Paul has been calling for this for years. And most people thought that'll never happen. So to do things that people never think possible, and Jake Paul's done that a few times now, credit to him. He hasn't done it the traditional way. He hasn't climbed the ranks. He hasn't traditionally earned it in the way everyone else who fought Canelo earned it, pretty much. But he's earned it in a different way. He's been very clever with how he's maneuvered his career. His marketing strategy has been unbelievably good. And obviously, he's learned to box on the job. Is he a world level fighter? Of course not. But this is an achievement in itself, just to get a fight like this. So, fair fucks, mate. And yes, it's a cash grab for Canelo Álvarez. And I think a lot of people would have been disappointed with Canelo Álvarez for even taking this fight if it wasn't for the fact that it looks like they're lining up Canelo versus Crawford later in the year, which is the ultimate, you know, boxing match, pound for pound, great level fight. So Canelo can probably get away with this now with boxing fans because he's going to give them such a treat later on this year. And that's one we all would want to see. And also, a lot of people hate Jake Paul in the pro boxing world for what he did to Mike Tyson. So Canelo can kind of be a bit of a hero here if he goes in there and just lights up Jake Paul for them. But obviously, it's about the cash for Canelo. There's nothing else in it for him. For Jake Paul, there's way more to gain than cash. This would be huge for Jake Paul's career, right? Obviously, he's an influencer boxer, and then he's in there with a world champion. This elevates his star to just stratospherically to another level. This is a guy who's been compared with Tommy Fury and KSI, right? So many more boxing fans are going to know who he is on top of the Mike Tyson fight, which already elevated him. And if he can do not terribly, it will give him some credibility in the world of boxing as well. And that's sort of where the downside is if he goes in there and gets absolutely destroyed, which is very, 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 very easily possible, then people will go, see, you weren't a true boxer. You were never a boxer, and you didn't belong in there with him. And you've looked like shit, and you've embarrassed yourself. Yeah, I'm sure Nikisa, his manager, is excited about all the money they're going to make, but that is the downside of like the humbling that could come. Like, Jake Paul obviously knows a lot about boxing at this point, and he's decent at it, right? For what he's done. It's one thing knowing a lot about boxing and being able to do it at a world class level, and he will know that before this fight even takes place. He is nowhere near the level of Canelo, and he can't even find people to spar who are near the level of Canelo, really. It's going to be a whole new world, and a world of pain, probably. Like, Jake's never even fought anyone who really throws more than one punch at a time. That's the level he's been at, you know? Like, let alone one of the best combination punchers in boxing, who's going to be hitting him at light speed from all sorts of angles, multiple times. You know, Canelo Álvarez can slip, you know, two of your shots, which you know, and you're overcommitting because you're just trying to nail the guy as best you can to give yourself a prayer in this fight, and then just pop you on with an uppercut, drop you on your ass, and make you look stupid. He will look like Neo from The Matrix. There's every chance that's what he looks like this fight. If I'm Jake Paul, I just get as fit as I can and try and survive for as long as possible to come out with as much credibility as I can. I don't try and win that fight. And because he's a younger guy and he's a bigger guy, he might be looking at this going, I've got a chance to share the ring with Canelo. You know, it's worth the roll of the dice. Fuck it, let's just go for it. And respect, bro. Yeah, why not? Yes, his credibility could get destroyed, but I understand why he's taking this fight. It's a once in a lifetime where you can tell the grandkids about this one day. And if you're going to get your arse beat, you do it against the biggest name possible for the most money possible. And that's the smartest thing you can do here. And they've managed his career fantastically. Now, you'll all remember Jake Paul having this chain made of Conor McGregor being knocked out cold and sort of igniting a feud between him and Conor McGregor that he one day wanted to make a fight out of. Well, he's recently bumped into Conor McGregor with Logan on a bus for the Donald Trump inauguration.
You kept talking about shoot you did. I thought we were going to get the fight down. We get very quiet.
What did you think the best course of action was for that?
You were giving all this, staying at this, staying at that. You're f***ing control with the WWE as well.
I love the fact that Logan after this was like, it was like 7 a.m. Like we were tired. Like Conor's just on a 10 from the get-go. And this is about the fight that was rumored to be between Logan Paul and Conor McGregor because they're both under the TKO umbrella who both own UFC and WWE. And I get Conor's point. Logan didn't really lean into it a huge amount to get the interest going, to get the demand going, which is what it was going to take in order to make the UFC make this fight, right? They've got to look at that and go, this is worth doing more than bringing Conor back to the UFC because we got 2 fights left with him. What are we going to use them on? Is this worth our while? And Logan probably could have done more to sort of drive interest up.
This is the real deal, yeah? In front of you, you know that. You know that, bro. So look here, I was doing. He couldn't do what? 190, 195 or something? I'm doing 90. He was sick. He was sick over it, yeah. He was sick.
I'm sick.
Logan and Jake look pretty chilled out there. Conor, on the other hand, this is the real deal. Do you understand? You know that. I think Conor's looking at these 2 dudes who are way bigger than him, and he doesn't want to come across as intimidated in any way, and he wants to let everyone know he's the alpha in the room. But in doing so, he's compensating a little too much, and it's coming across as weird.
I'm going to slap the head off the 2 of yous and KSI. No! Yous are mixers to me. You understand that? Side jobs. A little side job.
No,
yeah.
you can't even do your main job. How you gonna do a side job?
I tell you what, that was a brilliant line from Logan. But like, I kind of wanted a bit more from Logan and Jake. They were a little too laid back for me in this. He's spot on. Like, how often would we have seen someone do Conor McGregor with a line like that years and years ago? Like, you can't say shit like that to him now because it's been years since he fought and looked good. Jake Paul did make this video about his exchange with Conor McGregor.
Why do you want to fight him?
What, instead of you?
It's an easier fight.
Bigger names.
Nah. You know what I do to Southpaw.
Yeah,
you know.
I want you to do any Southpaw. Yeah, you couldn't even put it down.
Anderson Silva.
Look, he's done some good things. He's done some alright things.
Interesting to see Conor McGregor give Jake Paul a little bit of credit there. I mean, maybe he would fight him if he can get out of his UFC contract at any point. But Logan Paul did do a little bit on his podcast about this exchange.
I watched back that footage of Conor talking shit to us. He said he's gonna like slap me, Jake, and KSI, and then you can see me and Jake like belly laugh. Like we're fully laughing at what used to be like one of the scariest, like baddest men on the planet. And as a person who was like used to be a big fan of Conor McGregor, like back in the day, you know, he pioneered the crossover boxing, all that stuff. I watched it back and I actually felt sad. I was like, dude, this is a statement that at one point would have like actually like made us feel fear. And now 2 YouTubers are laughing at this washed up, cracked out fighter who's unhinged and there's no truth in what he's saying.
Yeah, but I don't get what you're saying because he'll still work your ass.
Bro,
is this a fight that could happen?
You're actually...
No, in a street setting, he'll work your ass.
Bro, stop, Mike. He's not working anything because he's not working. He's not doing anything except drugs.
Fucking hell, it's true, isn't it? I know a lot of people would look at that, and especially people who don't like the Paul brothers, and be like, Conor McGregor would do this and that to Logan Paul. Maybe in a boxing match, I don't know, but in a street fight, we've seen Conor McGregor be taken down with ease by Dustin Poirier in his what was his last fight. Yeah, Logan Paul is a massive dude compared to Conor McGregor, and it has done wrestling at a very good level. I've seen him grapple with Paulo Costa. The guy's a fucking strong, good wrestler. He would just take Conor McGregor down immediately. And I know people think Conor McGregor's a ninja, but I've got news for some of you out there. Aging fighters, it does change them. Especially when Conor, you know, he struggled with Nate Diaz, who was a 170 pounder for fuck's sake. Logan's twice the size of that guy. We've seen Israel Adesanya and how he looks as he's getting older. John Jones even. It looked horrible in his last fight, in my opinion. Conor McGregor hasn't fought in 4 years, has had a broken leg, and has done a hell of a lot of fucking gear in that time. The sad truth is, Logan would just take him down and smash him. I mean, that would happen in a real street fight setting. It would. Maybe Conor could sub him off his back. Maybe that's a possibility. But the point is Conor's getting put on his back immediately. And a lot of people will think Logan is a crazy person for that because they're still in this delusional state of mind that Conor McGregor is this superhuman fighter that once reigned at 145 pounds and forgetting that this is many, many years later. It's 10 years since he knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. And this guy is 60 pounds heavier than Conor McGregor and in the prime of his life and lives a healthy life and can wrestle. Is this a lack of common sense? Let's leave it at that. Conor recently squared off with Jeremy Stephens after his win at BKFC. Obviously, Conor is a part owner of BKFC, and I actually think that this would be a great place for him to finish his career because the level of striking at BKFC is good. It's fun to watch. I like it. But equally, they're not on his level, really. The likelihood is he's going to be better than the guys at that level, and he's not going to have to use his legs, which probably aren't at 100% ever again after the leg break, and he can then build his own company up using his presence. And he's recently got into a new beef with an Irish MMA fighter called Paul Hughes, who fought one of the Nurmagomedov lads. Obviously, after the fight, there was respect shown, despite there being a bit of Irish Dagestani beef going into it. Paul Hughes, who's been a big fan of Conor McGregor, supporter of Conor McGregor, said this to Khabib Nurmagomedov.
I'm not like this other guy, and I'm my own man. I'm not like this other guy.
Now, as you can imagine, Conor McGregor didn't like that "I'm not like this other guy" conversation that they had there. And he responded with these tweets. "Get that flag off, you little know what you are, cunt from up there. Lick my arse, I'm farting in your face, you foreign hairy arsehole arse licker. Yup, the real Irish, fuck these vermin fucks." Paul Hughes reacted, "Always said you were the GOAT. I paid homage at every opportunity, but coming at my Irish identity just shows where your head is at." Quite a mature response. I do think, I understand Conor's point, right? Like, you were claiming you were my bro, then you say I'm not like this other guy. I get why Conor's pissed off about that, to be fair. It's one of the few times where I can kind of understand Conor McGregor. However, his reaction, as expected, is just mental. And Conor basically claiming that people from the neck of the woods that Paul Hughes is from, which is Derry, I believe, you know, they're not really Irish. It's definitely pissed a lot of people off, as I understand it. Khabib Nurmagomedov responded with his own reply about the situation, saying, "You are a real Irishman, Paul Hughes, and not a rapist drug addict like this bastard." Khabib and McGregor's hatred is like nothing else we've seen in fighting, arguably. I remember DC and John Jones hated each other. This is a whole nother level. They've learned to speak to each other lately. Like, Conor McGregor and Khabib, never happening. They're the opposite. They're almost like a superhero and a supervillain. Like, they're so opposite of each other. It's amazing. And kind of with McGregor, for him to fight an MMA fight, not that there'd be much point because he hasn't looked after himself, but if there was a fight I'd be interested in, it's Khabib versus Conor. I actually forgot about Conor's reply to Khabib. Fuck me. I mean, he's dropping the N-bomb. He's calling Khabib's wife, and he's mentioning his kids, and it's just fucking insane. It's like literally, even for Conor McGregor, it's insane. Now back to Jake Paul and KSI, because Jake Paul recently has spoken about whether or not he'll ever fight KSI. And now, a word from our sponsors. Now, I've been doing a lot of traveling lately from Saudi Arabia to LA, and I know a lot of you've got travel plans for 2025, and there is one app that you have to download, and that app is Saily. Now, Saily is a brand new eSIM service app, and what it does is it gives you a local SIM card that you can use when you're traveling, so you don't have to pay those crazy roaming fees just to send a text back home. They've got eSIM plans for over 160 countries and 8 regions, so wherever you're going, they're going to be able to make sure you're connected. Now, all you've got to do is click the link in the description below, and you can download the app to iOS or Android. Then you buy your plan, just choose the best time frame for you. Then you just install the eSIM on your phone, and when you land at your destination, you can activate your plan instantly. And with Saily, your eSIM only ever has to be installed once, so after each trip, you can turn the eSIM off, and then when your next one comes along, you buy a new plan for where you're going, switch your eSIM back on, and boom, you're back in business. And what I love about Saily is that when I went to LA, the eSIM for them was actually faster than the hotel Wi-Fi. And obviously, when I left the hotel, I didn't have to worry about not having any Wi-Fi and all of that nonsense because I was constantly connected. So what you're waiting for? Get sorted for your next trip away by clicking the link in the description below and downloading Saily now. Just go to saily.com/paingame and use the code PAINGAME. That's all block capitals, all one word, to get 15% off your first purchase. And a big thanks to Saily for keeping us connected on our travels. But for now, enjoy the video.
Is KSI still talking?
They talk about Jake every chance they
day.
get, every interview they
Honestly,
get.
that fight is not even interesting. I'm the epitome of his career, and to me, he's like a side.
If you look
chick.
at any
Like, I
list
don't
in
care,
boxing,
like-
most influential, like trends, box rec, whatever you want to look at, Jake is in the top 10. Every single thing. And by the way, 5th most searched athlete in the world 2024, 10th in 2021, so not a one-time occurrence. KSI is not in the conversation of boxing.
Yeah.
So that's something, that's a make good for him at some point if he wants to do it.
Right.
People make fun of the fact that I was like, sure, show up with 100 million and he'll cut to 185. And like, oh, but he'll cut to 185 for Canelo? Well, that's Canelo.
Yeah.
That's an honor to get in the ring with Canelo and have an opportunity to shock the world. What does he need to fight KSI for? Because a bunch of kids on the internet want to see it?
Those little kids on the internet are the people who have literally supported Jake Paul's career. The same kids who buy all of his pay-per-views, who root for him, are the ones who want him to fight KSI. So you're kind of trashing your entire fan base there. And look, I get Nikisa and what he's doing here. His job is to make Jake Paul look as good as possible. It's to make Jake Paul look like the real boxer and make KSI look like he's the influencer boxer. And partly they've done a good job of doing that by fighting the better competition of the two. But the easiest way to do that is to never fight KSI, because then you never get the comparison and you can always spin the narrative. Because if you do fight him and it's even a little bit competitive, which it should be, because they both fought Tommy Fury and they both did all right against Tommy Fury, quite similar in how they fared against him. Some could even argue KSI did better against Tommy Fury. It then would ruin the brand that Jake Paul is the real boxer. And that then fucks up the big paydays for the Canelo Álvarez fight. You can't do the KSI fight before anything like that. But this whole thing about how Jake Paul's like top 10 in the sport of boxing and on every metric and in BoxRec even, he's not in the sport of boxing. He's in the entertainment game. The sport of boxing is fighters climbing the ranks, fighting each other, picking each other off to get to the title. Jake Paul's not trying to do that at all. That's not what he's doing. He's putting on entertainment fights like him against legends of MMA, a legend of boxing, because people know who he is as a celebrity and they'd be interested in seeing that. That's not the sport of boxing. It's a sporting contest, but he's not in the overall picture of the league of boxing at all. He did not get that Canelo fight, if it comes off, by climbing the rankings. He gets it because he brings a whole load of eyeballs. It's not a sporting event in the same traditional sense. No one who fought Canelo Álvarez ever had Mike Tyson as their previous opponent at 58 years old. There's the clue. And I'm not taking anything away from Jake, but the sport of boxing is made up of people like Vidal Riley who are climbing the ranks by fighting a better and better fighter each time to try and get to a world title shot. That's the sport of boxing, just to be absolutely clear. And Jake Paul might be fighting better fighters along the way than KSI, I won't deny that, but they're no more in the sport of boxing than the other one is. Neither of them are trying to climb the ranks to win a world title. They're entertainers. I just think that they've maneuvered Jake Paul's career in such genius fashion. They've picked the right fights at the right moment, and they've taken more risks than KSI has. There's no doubt about that. And they've got their reward in this Canelo fight. It really puts Jake Paul at the pinnacle of this whole influencer boxing thing. I mean, he leaves everyone in the dust, quite honestly. I just hope that if the Canelo fight happens and it's done and finished with, and let's say Jake loses as people expect them to, at that point, he hasn't got anything to lose really in fighting a KSI. Have another mega fight. Have a KSI fight. Sell out a stadium or whatever. Because people will care about that one in a whole different way. Because it's clear that Nikisa is the one who just has no interest in making this fight, because he's trying to collect all the bags he can before we set that one up, because that could end a lot of the narrative about Jake Paul being this legitimate boxer if it doesn't go so well. That doesn't mean for one second that I think Jake Paul is scared of KSI or doesn't want to fight him or whatever. I just think that they're being very strategic here, and Nikisa in particular is making sure of that. Now, speaking of KSI, he has now announced that his next opponent will be Dillon Danis, and I think given the fact that Jake Paul might be fighting Canelo Álvarez, there's going to be a lot of comparisons there, and clearly Dillon Danis is not up to that level. In fact, Dillon Danis probably isn't up to the level of what Tyron Woodley was 4 years ago when Jake had that fight. So I think there's going to be natural criticism of KSI for having a fight like this, and it's clear that it's because he's coming off of an 18-month layoff, right? They tried to set up a Wayne Bridge fight, which, fuck me, nobody wanted. That was terrible, right? We all know that was a horrible idea. And it's funny because a lot of people were criticizing the Misfits Small Council, saying it was our fault. I'm like, fuck me, you really don't know what the fuck is going on. I've tried to tell people. The Small Council, we advise Mams Taylor a little bit if he asks us questions about, do you think we should make this fight, or would this opponent be better for this fighter? Like, we're just there to give a bit of advice. Mams makes generally most of the fights there. We might say, oh, I think we should do this, and he might take that on board. But with KSI, again, it's different again from how we run the rest of the fucking thing. When it comes to KSI, the Small Council have nothing to do with his fights. We don't get any say, pretty much. We might suggest a few opponents in passing and be like, maybe you could look at these guys. At no point was Wayne Bridge suggested, just to be absolutely clear on that. I think he came about because they were needing an opponent at fairly short notice. KSI's coming off the back of an injury and a long layoff, and they're like, we just need a guy. And his name came up from somewhere, and the coaches, who are the ones who have full say on KSI's fight, okayed it. The small council would never have wanted that fight, ever, just to be clear. So don't blame us, okay? It's the coaches who pick his fights. And even Leon from the small council did a whole video with Vidal saying how frustrated he was at the fact that the coaches keep on picking the easiest options possible outside of arguably Joe Fournier and Tommy Fury. And I think that's a fair point. Like, we had Swarms and Pineda, which were no real threat to JJ. JJ then fought FaZe Temper, who'd previously been knocked out of Slim. So that was like an easy one for him. So when Wayne Bridge was announced, everyone was like, well, here we fucking go again. Another shit warm-up that no one really wanted. And I agree, man. It was bad. It was bad. But as I understand it, the plan is to get him back in the gym, get him in the ring, knock the ring rust, and then level up pretty immediately for the rest of the year. And if he wants to get back to being even talked about with Jake Paul, there's a lot of leveling up going to have to happen, let's be real. And I think the concern from Leon is as a former coach of KSI, and he got Coach of the Year in the Influencer Boxing Awards, if you're not having your fighter tested, then you as a coach aren't being tested. And if you're getting paid a fortune, then you should be getting tested. We should know that what you're teaching JJ is the right thing and that his game is developing. And if you're purposefully picking easy fights, it is possible that you're just wanting to further the gravy train and keep the money coming in and not actually have to prove yourself as a coach. And I think that those coaches must want to prove themselves. I hope so. And I hope that we see that happen this year. And I think JJ wants to prove himself as well. And I think with Dillon Danis, he's not going to help the resume of JJ. But against Logan, he lasted a lot longer than Logan would have wanted him to. JJ can go in there and potentially get him out early, smash him to bits, get the ring rust off, get another training camp in, and up the levels massively. It's definitely a more entertaining fucking fighter opponent than Wayne Bridge, for Christ's sake. So I think overall, providing all of that happens, the fans can go, yeah, fair enough then. But if it's another Dillon Danis level fighter after Dillon Danis, I think there'll be uproar. I think there's a real pressure now from KSI's fans that I've never seen before. I've never in my life seen fans react this angrily when Wayne Bridge was announced in my life. And I've been a fight fan for decades. So it's like, okay, either up the levels or what is the point really? And I see people commenting saying I won't criticize KSI the way I'll criticize Jake Paul. I like both of these guys, and I'm proud of what they've both achieved since starting out. I'm not trying to criticize either of them just for the sake of it. I just want to do it when it's necessary, and coming off the back of an 18-month layoff isn't easy. So providing JJ ups the levels after this, I think that's fair. Yeah, I'd want it to be a little bit better than Dillon Danis, I'm not going to lie, but as long as the rest of the year goes according to plan and they get these big names and these exciting fights, I think it'll be a great year for KSI. I believe in his ability, I believe in his heart as well. He's got a lot of heart, a lot of fight in him, and I'm excited to see, with Jake Paul setting the bar so high, what JJ responds with, because I know he's going to be looking at Jake Paul and being like, fuck me, the guy's doing pretty big things here. I need to show what I'm made of. And that rivalry is hopefully going to bring the best out of both of them. Anyway, let me know what you thought of everything in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pain Game YouTube channel, and I'll see you on the next one.